In February 2000, a jury in Baltimore convicted Adnan Syed of the 1999 murder of his former high school classmate, Hae Min Lee. He was sentenced to life in prison plus 30 years. Appeals followed, but the conviction was upheld. For the courts, the case was closed. 15 years later, in 2014, a podcast episode began to unravel that sense of finality. The show was Serial, created by journalist Sarah Koenig and produced with WBZ, with ties to This American Life, founded by Ira Glass. Over 12 episodes, Koenig re-examined the case, asking whether the evidence that secured Syed's conviction truly established guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Hae Min Lee, an 18-year-old senior at Woodlawn High School, disappeared on January 13, 1999. Her body was found weeks later in Leakin Park. The medical examiner ruled her death a homicide by manual strangulation. Investigators focused on Syed after Jay Wilds, an acquaintance, told police that Syed had confessed and that he helped bury Lee's body. At trial, prosecutors relied heavily on Wilds' testimony and cell phone records from AT&T. They argued that call data placed Syed's phone near Leakin Park the evening of the burial. The jury convicted him. The podcast revisited those records and highlighted a fax cover sheet attached to the AT&T documents, stating that incoming call location data was not reliable for determining precise location. Koenig also examined inconsistencies in Wilds' statements and renewed attention to a potential alibi witness, Asia McLean, who said she saw Syed at the library during the time prosecutors alleged the murder occurred. She had not testified at trial. The series reached millions of listeners. Legal scholars, journalists, and the public began reanalyzing transcripts and evidence. In 2016, a Baltimore judge granted Syed a new trial, finding that his trial attorney had been ineffective in failing to challenge the cell tower evidence. In 2018, an intermediate appellate court upheld that decision. But in 2019, the Supreme Court of Maryland reversed it, reinstating the conviction. The court acknowledged deficiencies in counsel performance, but ruled that Syed had not shown sufficient prejudice to warrant a new trial. Once again, the case appeared settled. Public scrutiny did not end. Additional reporting and legal advocacy continued, including analysis in the podcast Undisclosed. In September 2022, Baltimore prosecutors filed a motion to vacate Syed's conviction, citing newly discovered evidence, including information about 2 alternative suspects that had not been disclosed to the defense. They also raised concerns about the reliability of the cell phone evidence. A judge granted the motion, vacating the conviction and ordering Syed released pending further investigation. Prosecutors stated they had lost confidence in the integrity of the original conviction. Subsequent DNA testing on certain items excluded Syed as a contributor. In October 2022, prosecutors dismissed the charges. Syed was released after more than 20 years in prison. Hae Min Lee's family publicly expressed opposition to the decision and raised concerns about their rights under Maryland law. In 2023, the Supreme Court of Maryland ruled that the family had not received adequate notice of the hearing to vacate the conviction and ordered a new hearing. After that proceeding, the conviction was again vacated. As of public records, the charges remained dismissed and the investigation technically open. Court opinions and official statements acknowledged that the renewed scrutiny brought by Serial played a role in re-examining the case. The podcast did not decide guilt or innocence, but it amplified questions about evidence, disclosure obligations, and forensic reliability. Those questions eventually entered formal legal proceedings. The record shows conviction in 2000 upheld on appeal. It shows a podcast in 2014 that reintroduced doubt into public view. It shows courts granting and reversing relief. It shows prosecutors vacating the conviction decades later and dismissing charges after DNA testing. What it does not show is definitive closure. No court has identified another perpetrator. The dismissal of charges against Syed does not resolve who killed Hae Min Lee. When institutions close a case, they signal certainty. But sometimes, certainty does not survive renewed examination. In this case, it was not a new detective or a new witness that reopened the file. It was a microphone and the persistence of questions that refused to remain settled.